Let me tell you what this looked like in my own life. I met him. He was 64 years old. He was very charming, considerate, and spoke very appropriately. Just a few weeks later, he started asking for small favors, like babysitting his dog, helping him get to the doctor, lending him a little money, just this once until he received his pension. My chest felt heavy every time I said yes. I remember standing at the ATM with my heart pounding and my stomach tight, thinking, this doesn't feel right. But then I'd hear his voice in my head. You're the only one I can trust. I stopped sleeping through the night. I woke up at 3 a.m., worrying about his bills and his health while he slept just fine. And still, every time my body screamed, no, the word that came out of my mouth was, yes.
If you're over 60 and you've ever looked back at a relationship thinking I saw the signs, my body knew. Why didn't I listen? This is for you. Your body has been whispering to you for years in the tightness in your chest when you said yes, but meant no. In the knot in your stomach when his stories didn't add up in the sleepless nights you explained away as just stress. In this video, we're going to walk through 10 situations with men after 60 where you weren't being loved, you were being used. And I'll show you the exact signals your body was sending the whole time. Number 7 is the pattern that turns your nervous system into a slot machine addicted to crumbs of attention. And number 10 will change how you trust yourself in every relationship from this day forward. If you find yourself saying, I'm sorry, I'm probably just too picky every time something feels wrong, this one is for you. Margaret was 64 when she met John. She had built a quiet, steady life for herself. Weekly dinners with friends, Sunday calls with her daughter, a small garden she loved. When John came in, he was charming and spontaneous. He loved last-minute plans, late-night calls, seeing where the evening takes us. The first time he canceled dinner an hour before they were supposed to meet, Margaret felt a sharp sting of disappointment. She'd turned down an invitation from her friend, ironed her dress, done her hair. She typed, "That doesn't feel good to me." Then paused. A familiar fear rose up. What if he thinks I'm too demanding? What if I scare him away? She erased the line and wrote, "It's okay. I'm sorry I can be a bit rigid about plans." Soon that sentence became a pattern. She apologized when he raised his voice, when he dismissed her opinions, when his adult son spoke to her with disrespect. Each time, something inside her sank a little lower. Margaret's body was the first to know this wasn't right. Before she answered his messages, her chest would tighten and her breathing would turn shallow. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard while a dull pressure spread across her ribcage as if her body was leaning back trying to hold the line for her. Each time she hit send on another apology, her shoulders rounded forward, her spine curled in, and she felt herself literally shrink in her own living room. That night, she would lie in bed with a heavy ache behind her breastbone and a quiet thought she pushed away. I abandoned myself again. She called it getting older or being tired. Her body called it something else, self-betrayal. Jung would say that every apology for your own boundaries is a small sacrifice to the shadow, the part of you that holds your dignity when you give it away to keep someone else comfortable. That shadow doesn't disappear. It speaks through tight chests, clenched jaws, restless sleep. If your body feels heavy every time you say, "Sorry, I'm probably too sensitive," that heaviness is not weakness, it is your own self-respect, asking you to stop apologizing for the standards that keep you safe. If you keep choosing him over family and telling yourself they'll understand, your body may already know you're losing more than you think. Linda was 67 when she started dating Robert. After years of feeling invisible, the way he looked at her as if she were the center of the room felt intoxicating. He wanted her time, her attention, her weekends. At first, it was flattering. Sunday dinners with her daughter slowly became maybe next week. She skipped her grandson's soccer games because Robert planned surprise day trips. When her daughter mentioned feeling hurt, Linda brushed it off. "He needs me right now. You're strong. You'll be fine." The first time she chose a weekend getaway with Robert over her granddaughter's birthday, something in her daughter's voice broke. "You always said, 'Family comes first,'" she said quietly. "I guess that changed." Linda laughed it off in the moment. "Don't be dramatic," but the sentence stayed with her. Months later, when Robert ended things and moved on, Linda found herself standing in her quiet kitchen, realizing that the people she had counted on to always be there had started to step back too. Linda's body had been grieving long before the breakup. When she canceled family plans, a knot formed low in her stomach. She felt a sharp, fleeting guilt in her chest as she typed excuses into the family group chat, followed quickly by a wave of rationalization. They'll understand. I deserve to be happy. On the drives home from weekends with Robert, she occasionally felt a heaviness behind her eyes, a sting of tears. She swallowed down. Her jaw clenched when she replayed her granddaughter's small voice asking, "Will you be there?" Grandma, and heard herself say, "Not this time." Honey. That night, her sleep was shallow. She woke feeling unrested with a dull ache in her throat and chest. Even in joyful moments with Robert, there was an undercurrent, a sense of being slightly off-center, like standing in a house where one room was always dark and closed off. Her body carried a quiet, constant tension whenever she thought about calling her daughter, and didn't. Jung spoke about our connection to the collective-to-family community roots as a vital part of psychological wholeness. When you cut yourself off from that to orbit around one person, the cost is not only relational, it is spiritual and psychic. If your stomach sinks every time you say no to your grandchildren so you can say yes to a man, your body is not punishing you with guilt. It is fighting to keep you connected to the people and places that have always been your true home. If you're doing most of the caring and almost none of the receiving, your body already knows this isn't mutual. Patricia met James at 62. He told her on their first coffee date, "I've been through a lot. I just need someone who understands me." Those words sounded tender. They also turned out to be a job description. Within a few months, Patricia's days revolved around James. She organized his medications, cooked his meals, cleaned his house. She drove him to appointments and waited in parking lots for hours. At night, she lay on his couch while he talked for the third time that week about his ex-wife, his ungrateful children, his bad luck. One evening, a friend asked her a simple question. "What does he do for you?" Patricia opened her mouth, and nothing came out. She could list 100 things she did for him. She couldn't think of one thing he consistently did for her. Patricia's body had been telling the truth long before her mind caught up. Her lower back ached from lifting, bending, and cleaning a home that wasn't hers. Her shoulders were constantly tense, as if she was bracing for the next emergency. She started waking up already tired with a heaviness in her limbs that no amount of coffee could fix. Emotionally, she felt flat. The small joys that used to nourish her reading, gardening, walking with a friend, no longer had space. Every time she canceled something for herself to meet one more of James's needs, she felt a quick pinch of resentment in her chest, followed by a wave of guilt. He needs me. I shouldn't be so selfish. Her body wasn't tired because of age. It was tired because it was doing the work of 3 roles: nurse, therapist, and mother in a relationship where she was supposed to have a partner. Jung wrote about the poor eternus, the eternal boy who never truly grows up, always searching for a new mother to take care of him. When you become the full-time caretaker for a man who offers little in return, you're not in a mature relationship. You've been cast as his replacement mother. If your back hurts from carrying his life and your heart feels empty when you realize no one is carrying you, your body isn't failing you. It's telling you, "I was not born to raise another grown man." If you keep telling yourself, "Maybe I'm being too judgmental," every time something feels off, your body is already waving the flag for you. Susan was 65 when she started seeing Richard. After years of being on her own, she missed simple things: having someone to text goodnight, sharing a meal, hearing another voice in the house. From the start, there were details that didn't quite fit. Richard was vague about his past. He never answered calls in the evening. He avoided introducing her to any of his friends. When she asked about his family, he would laugh it off. "Oh, it's complicated. I'll explain one day." Susan noticed these things. The first time he canceled a weekend together with a last-minute excuse, something inside her tightened. But then came the fear. If I ask too many questions, he'll leave. Maybe I'm expecting too much. At my age, I should just be grateful someone is here. So she smiled, said she understood, and pushed the questions down until the day she discovered by accident that Richard was married. Long before she saw the wedding ring line on his finger, Susan's body had already seen the truth. Every time Richard dodged a direct question, her stomach clenched. Her throat felt tight when she tried to bring up the topic again, as if the words were getting stuck halfway between her heart and her mouth. On the nights he went silent, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning her chest, buzzing with unease she couldn't name. When they were together, there were moments of warmth, laughter, shared stories, but underneath her body, never fully relaxed. Her shoulders stayed slightly raised. Her breath never dropped deep into her belly. It was as if some part of her was always on watch, scanning for the truth her mind refused to see. After she learned he was married, the shock was not a clean surprise. It felt like confirmation of something her body had been whispering for months. I knew. The nausea, the tight jaw, the restless sleep, they had all been messages. Jung said that the psyche always knows the truth, even when the conscious mind is invested in a more comfortable story. What we call a gut feeling is often the first voice of that deeper knowing. If your stomach twists every time his story changes, if your chest feels heavy whenever you try to ask a simple question, you are not being paranoid. Your body is not ruining your chance at love. It is trying to rescue you from a story that will hurt more than your loneliness ever could. If you live for the moment his name lights up your phone and crash when it goes dark again, your body is already telling you the truth. Helen was 67 when she met Marcus. For 3 years, he hovered at the edge of her life like a promise that never fully arrived. He texted just enough to keep hope alive. A good morning beautiful every few days, a spontaneous coffee when it suited him. The occasional weekend together that felt almost like a relationship until Monday came and he vanished back into silence. He never planned ahead, never introduced her to his family, never used the word girlfriend. Whenever Helen gathered her courage to ask for clarity, he pulled her back in with tenderness. Long late-night calls, confessions about his past, whispered lines like "I've never met anyone like you." Each time she tried to leave, he gave her just enough warmth to make staying feel safer than walking away. Helen's mind called it chemistry. Her body knew it was something else. On the days when his messages stopped, her stomach knotted and a quiet panic settled under her ribs. She kept her phone within reach, checking it without meaning to, feeling a small jolt of dread every time the screen stayed blank. Her sleep became light and broken. She woke at 3 a.m. and scrolled through their conversations, searching for proof that she wasn't imagining things. When his name finally appeared, her heart didn't soften, it spiked. A sharp rush of relief flooded her chest. Her hands trembled slightly and her breathing turned fast and shallow. It felt less like love and more like catching air after being held underwater. Then, as his attention faded again, her body crashed. Headaches, tight shoulders, a hollow ache in her chest that no amount of reassurance could fill. Each cycle left her more exhausted, more unsure of herself, more dependent on the next little crumb. Psychology calls this intermittent reinforcement, the same pattern that keeps people glued to slot machines. Jung would go further. He would say a part of Helen's psyche is trapped in an old story, still waiting to finally be chosen, still believing that if she endures the hunger long enough, the feast will come. But your body doesn't lie. If your heart races when he appears and your whole system collapses when he disappears, you are not in a love story. Your nervous system is in a war. Your body is begging you to stop calling this addiction chemistry and to remember what real safety actually feels like. If you feel more anxious than excited about selling your place or moving in with him, your body is telling you this decision is bigger than romance. Joyce spent decades paying off her small house. It wasn't fancy, but every corner carried a piece of her life photos of her children, the chair where she read on quiet evenings, the garden she tended alone after her husband died. When she met Frank at 70, he quickly began talking about being practical. "Why pay 2 mortgages," he said. "We're not getting any younger. Sell your place, move in with me. We'll have more money to enjoy life." On paper, it sounded logical. Frank was warm, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in a future together. Joyce wanted companionship. The thought of shared mornings and full holidays was appealing. But every time she pictured a for sale sign in front of her house, a wave of unease rose inside her. Friends voiced concern. Her daughter hesitated. Joyce overrode them all with a single sentence: "It's my life. I don't want to die alone." Within 6 months of selling her home and moving into Frank's, the relationship began to crumble. Arguments increased. Small differences turned into big fights. When they eventually split, Joyce walked out of his door with 2 suitcases and nowhere of her own to go. Joyce's body had been whispering no, long before she signed the papers. In the weeks leading up to the sale, she woke around 3 or 4 a.m. Most nights, her heart beating faster than usual, her mind racing through what-ifs. Her appetite changed some days. She barely felt like eating. Other days, she craved comfort food she hadn't touched in years. Each time she drove home and saw her little house, her chest tightened and her eyes stung. There were moments standing in her emptying living room boxes stacked around her when a deep sadness settled in her bones. Not the sadness of change, but the grief of betraying something sacred. She overruled it with thoughts like, "Don't be dramatic. It's just a building." But her body knew this was more than bricks and walls. It was the place where she had finally felt safe after a lifetime of carrying others. In Frank's house, her nervous system never fully landed. She found herself asking permission to move small things, hesitating before opening cabinets, feeling like a guest in a space that was supposed to be theirs. Her sleep grew lighter, her shoulders more tense, her jaw tighter. The security she'd been promised never arrived in her body. Jung understood home as more than a physical structure. It is an image of the self, the inner place where you are allowed to exist as you are. Selling or abandoning that too quickly for the promise of a relationship often means sacrificing a vital part of your own center. If your chest aches every time you imagine giving up your space, if your sleep is broken, and your body feels unsettled at the thought of moving in with someone, pay attention. Your body may not be afraid of love. It may be trying to protect the one sanctuary it knows you truly have. If you believe a relationship will finally make you whole, your body will often tell you the opposite story. Ruth spent most of her life in relationships, a long marriage, a few serious partners, a handful of hopeful, almost relationships. At 68, she found herself single for the first time in decades. The first months were terrifying. The house was too quiet. Evenings felt endless. She told herself, "I'm too old to start over. I don't want to die alone." So when she met Alan at a community event, she grabbed onto the possibility with both hands. He was charming, spiritual in his own way, and most importantly, he was there. Ruth bent herself into his life quickly. She rearranged her routines, softened her opinions, tried not to rock the boat. Every time Alan pulled back, she panicked. If this ends, what do I have? She believed that without a man beside her, she was somehow less valued, less seen, less safe. But Ruth's body knew a deeper truth, and it showed her in two very different seasons of her life. Before Alan, when she was alone and slowly building a new rhythm, her nervous system began to settle. She slept through the night for the first time in years. Her breath went deeper. Her shoulders dropped. Long walks, simple meals, evenings with a book or a call to a friend left her feeling quietly full. There was loneliness, yes, but underneath it, a surprising sense of peace. With Alan, her body tensed again. She checked her phone more. Her chest tightened when he went silent. She skipped the practices that grounded her. Her morning journal, her Sunday gathering, her walks to stay available in case he called. The more she tried to make the relationship work, the more her body returned to shallow breathing, restless sleep, and a constant hum of anxiety under her skin. Her mind said, "I can't be whole without him." Her body answered every day, "You were calmer, safer, and more yourself before." Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself. That journey does not depend on a partner. In fact, it often requires periods of solitude where you finally hear your own voice clearly. If your body feels lighter, safer, and more at peace when you are alone than it does with someone who is supposed to love you, that is not a failure. It is your deepest self reminding you, you were complete before he arrived, and you will be complete long after he's gone. If you find yourself walking away from what has grounded you for decades just to avoid an argument, your body will almost always feel the loss first. Ruth had always found strength in her faith. For over 40 years, Sunday mornings at church and midweek gatherings had been the quiet backbone of her life, a place where she felt held, seen, and connected to something larger than herself. When she met Alan, he made his position clear early on. "I don't believe in any of that," he said. "It's all superstition. I'd rather spend our weekends together, not sitting in some building." At first, Ruth tried to negotiate. "You don't have to come, but I'd still like to go." But every time she mentioned a service or a group meeting, his face tightened. Eventually, she stopped bringing it up. One Sunday became 2, then 6 months without setting foot in the place that had always steadied her. She told herself, "I can pray at home. God knows my heart. It's not a big deal." But the quiet inside her began to change. The peace that used to rise when she sat in familiar pews was replaced by a vague, restless emptiness she couldn't explain. When the relationship with Alan finally ended after a series of small humiliations and dismissive comments about her irrational feelings, Ruth realized she hadn't just lost a partner. She had wandered far from the practices and people who had carried her through every previous storm. Ruth's body registered the betrayal long before her mind admitted it. On the Sundays she stayed home to avoid an argument, she felt heavy and unfocused. Her chest felt flat, as if someone had turned the volume down on her inner life. She scrolled her phone, watched television, cooked, but none of it left her with the quiet fullness she used to feel walking out of church into the daylight. When she passed by the building during the week, her throat tightened and her eyes filled with unexpected tears. She would look away quickly, telling herself it was silly to be so emotional about just a habit. Yet that night, she felt a hollow ache in her stomach and a restlessness in her legs, pacing the house without knowing what she was looking for. Over time, low-grade symptoms crept in trouble, concentrating a gray fog over days that used to feel meaningful, a sense that her life was happening on the surface while something deeper in her remained untouched, waiting. For Jung, our spiritual life, whatever form it takes, is not an accessory. It is a primary way we stay connected to the self, the deepest center of who we are. When you abandon that center to keep another person comfortable, you don't just lose a belief, you lose a vital line back to yourself. If your chest feels strangely empty when you skip the practices that once grounded you, if your eyes sting every time you drive past the place that used to feel like home for your soul, your body is not being sentimental. It is mourning the part of you you left behind to avoid losing him. We've just walked through 10 situations where women over 60 are not being loved, they're being used. And in every single one of them, your body knew before your mind was willing to admit it. It knew when you apologized for your own standards. It knew when you chose a weekend trip over your granddaughter's birthday and felt that knot in your stomach. It knew when you became his nurse, his therapist, his mother. It knew when your retirement money started disappearing. It knew when you swallowed your questions because you were afraid of being alone. It knew when you shrank so he could feel bigger. It knew when you were living on crumbs of attention and calling it chemistry. It knew when you stopped going to the places and practices that used to keep you grounded. It knew when you sold the home that had always held you. And it knows even now whether you feel more whole alone than you ever did in some of your relationships. So if you see yourself in any of these stories or in all of them, hear me clearly. This does not mean you were stupid. It does not mean you were weak. It means you loved deeply in a world that trained you from a very young age to ignore your own body in order to keep the peace. No one ever sat you down and said your tight chest is wisdom. Your sleepless nights are wisdom. The knot in your stomach is wisdom. They said you're too sensitive. You're overreacting. Be understanding. Be grateful someone wants you. But your body never agreed to that story. It has been on your side the whole time. I want you to remember a time, even a small one, when you felt truly safe. Maybe it was sitting alone with a cup of tea walking in your neighborhood at sunset, laughing with a friend who never made you feel too much. Notice how your body felt in that memory. Your breath a little deeper, your shoulders a little lower, your chest a little more open. That is what your nervous system is asking for. Not fireworks, not constant drama, not the high-low roller coaster of almost love, just the steady, quiet, ordinary peace of being allowed to be yourself. So tonight, instead of making a promise you can't keep, I want to invite you to do something very small. Take a piece of paper and write one sentence. The last time my body knew the truth before I did was when... You don't have to show it to anyone. You don't have to analyze it. Just tell yourself the truth on that page. Let your body see in ink that you are finally listening. And in the next few days, if a familiar situation appears and your chest tightens or your stomach twists or your sleep disappears, pause. Before you silence it with logic, just put a hand on that part of your body and say, I hear you this time. You don't have to fix everything at once. You only have to stop abandoning yourself in the exact same way you did last time.
I know this wasn't an easy video to listen to. For many of you, every story touched an old wound. Every body warning reminded you of a time you didn't listen to yourself. The fact that you stayed, that you let these words land inside you, tells me something important. You are braver than you think. So from one woman to another, thank you for your honesty, for your tears, for the quiet ways you have survived. Thank you for giving your body another chance to be heard. And thank you for letting me sit with you, even just through a screen, while you remembered that you were never as powerless as people made you feel.
If this video has put words to something your body has been trying to tell you for years, you are not alone. There is a whole generation of women quietly waking up to the truth that their bodies were never the problem the stories they were given were. If you feel safe enough to share, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which warning did your body recognize first? Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear tonight to finally trust herself. And if you want more spaces like this, calm, honest, protective, you're welcome to stay here with us. Subscribing isn't about the algorithm. It's simply a way to remind yourself that you don't have to walk this path back to your own body alone. You are not broken. You are not behind. Your body has been on your side all along.